This video will cover the introduction section of Osho's Book of Secrets. Here's the book. You can see it's very thick, 1,300 pages in length. And in this first section, Osho declares that Tantra is a science, not a philosophy. In my first video on Osho's book, I said that the Book of Secrets is Osho's commentary on an ancient 5,000-year-old Indian text called the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. All of the chapters of the Book of Secrets were put together from a series of lectures that Osho gave in India back in the 1970s. The words Vigyan Bhairav mean the technique of going beyond consciousness, and the word Tantra means the method. Osho tells us that because Tantra is not a philosophy, the seeker will not receive answers, but instead the technique or the way to attain the answers for ourselves. In this way, Tantra is experiential. All Tantra treatises are formatted as dialogues between the Indian god Shiva and his consort Devi. Devi represents Shiva's feminine aspect. The Vigyan Bhairav Tantra reads like a dialogue between Shiva and Devi. Devi asks Shiva a question, and Shiva responds. The entire text of the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra then ends up being a manual, if you will, on 112 different techniques on how to meditate and live the path of Tantra. Remember, the word Tantra means the method. So Shiva is relaying many different ways that humans can raise their consciousness and transform their minds. The 112 methods for meditation constitute a science for transforming the mind. All throughout the book, Osho notes that we do not need to try all of the 112 techniques. Instead, we should find one or even a few that work for us and then do them. He says once we find a technique which fits us and put our total energy into it, that we will never be the same again. According to Tantra, in order for the human mind to change, authentic and methodical techniques must be used, because merely preaching to people about what they should do is not scientific and will have no effect. Osho explains that Tantra is written in love language as opposed to logical language. He says that logical language is aggressive, argumentative, and violent, and that the only aim of an arguer who uses logical language is to convince others and persuade them to believe that he's right about something. The use of logic, then, is an intellectual exercise. It provokes debate. On the other hand, Osho describes love language as communion. We've established that the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra is set up as a dialogue between Lord Shiva and his consort Devi. The first question Devi asks is, "O Shiva, what is your reality? What is this wonder-filled universe? What constitutes seed? Who centers the universal wheel? What is this life beyond pervading forms? How may we enter it fully above space and time, names and descriptions? Let my doubts be cleared." Shiva answers by giving 112 techniques. Osho says these methods are the oldest, most ancient techniques, but that they can also be called the newest, because nothing can be added to them. He says they have taken in all the possibilities, all the ways of cleaning the mind and transcending the mind. The 112 methods of meditation constitute the entire science of how to transform the mind. Osho explains why we need these tantric techniques. He says we live in a state of ignorance, in conflict, and asleep, and this constitutes a disease, a spiritual one, not a physical one. He teaches the treatment for this disease is Tantra. Tantra is amoral because it doesn't ask who you are. Instead, a person can rest securely in the knowledge that whoever, wherever you are accepted and not judged. During the time he was giving the talks that make up the content of the Book of Secrets, Osho often took questions from his audiences. These questions and his answers are also part of the book. The first question Osho is asked is, what is the difference between traditional yoga and Tantra? Osho answers by acknowledging that both seek the same goal, but the paths are different as well as opposite. Yoga, like Tantra, is a series of techniques, actions, a method, and doing leads to being. In Osho's view, however, in order to follow the path of yoga, one must become a warrior. One has to fight with oneself in order to go beyond. This means to suppress, fight, dissolve that which you are, so that you can attain that which you can be. Going beyond is a death in yoga. You must die for your real being to be born. You are required to kill the natural self, your instincts and desires, your awareness. You must suppress your awareness. On the other hand, according to Tantra, every energy is just natural and can be used for you or against you. Osho says that we should, quote, be aware of instincts and desires, but embrace the awareness, even indulge it. And in this way, we refuse to create any fight, end quote. Yoga takes the opposite view, however, the view that the ordinary mind is being destroyed by its own desires, and so these desires must be fought. Hence, to practice yoga, we must become a warrior. Tantra, though, says we should move into desire with full consciousness, because by doing this, we can transcend our desires as opposed to suppressing them. In this way, Osho explains, yoga is negation and Tantra is affirmation. The perspective of yoga is based upon a belief in duality. In effect, the word yoga actually means to yoke or put things together. But if we try to do this, it doesn't change the fact that with the dualistic view, two things are still there. The duality is still there. The world and the divine are separate. Tantra, however, says there is no duality. There is only one. Duality is only an appearance. Therefore, we should dissolve it. Be one. He uses the emotion of anger to give an example. Instead of seeing anger as a negative emotion and trying to suppress it, Tantra doesn't require us to do this. We should be angry, but be aware. And in this way, we can transform our anger into compassion. Our anger is not the enemy, according to Tantra, because it is merely compassion in seed form. If you fight with it, if you suppress it, there will be no possibility for it to be transformed into compassion. Osho teaches that Tantric alchemy says, do not fight. Be friendly with all of the energies that are given to you. Be grateful because they can be transformed and open. For example, Tantra has developed many techniques for the transformation of sexual energy. Osho says that this is one of the reasons why Tantra has not been in our hearts for a long time. For centuries, it has not been in the main current. Yoga has. But according to Osho, for Tantra, everything is holy. And this is the deepest non-dual statement that there can be. He teaches that we should see deep oneness running through everything. Do not see only the polar opposites. See the inner running current which makes them one. To sum up, according to Osho, the greatest difference between yoga and Tantra is that yoga is about outgoing energy, while Tantra is energy moving inward. This is why the subtitle to the Book of Secrets is 112 Meditations to Discover the Mystery Within. In the next video, I will explore some of the first techniques that Osho gives in the Book of Secrets. Until then, Namaste.